Do you love basketball more, or do you love the things that basketball gives you more?
This is what the new head coach of the LA Lakers, JJ Redick, had to say about the current state of players in the NBA during the discussion with Damian Lillard. That podcast episode was recorded back in March of 2023, 14 months before Redick signed with the Los Angeles Lakers. His feelings towards players being privileged and entitled is especially fascinating today given the Lakers situation. The team is gearing up for the impending whirlwind, spurred by the hiring of Redick and LeBron James playing alongside his son. Entitled is a good descriptor of a number of players, and it's influenced some franchises for the worse. Take the 2023 Houston Rockets. The team lacked any form of leadership, a fact noted by many who were involved, directly or indirectly. John Wall and Eric Gordon explained their chaotic stints with the team from a veteran perspective, whereas Houston's young star Jalen Green did so inadvertently, stating he'd haze rookies as a rookie himself. I was the vet. I was just like, yo, Rook, go turn the showers on. Go get me a towel. Go get me my food. The rookie giving out rookie duties displayed the lack of integrity internally with the Rockets, and they needed an iron-fisted authority to set them straight. And that's why they hired the former coach of the Boston Celtics, Ime Udoka. A no BS taking figure, Udoka transformed a disgraced squad into a respectable group in a year's time. As the Rockets finished with an even 41 wins to 41 losses, a 19-game jump from the previous season. The coverage surrounding the young Houston Rockets further highlights the growing concern of NBA players becoming overly empowered, which results in spoiled millionaires who do as they desire. Yes, NBA players deserve the power to control their conditions since they're the foundation of the league. The NBA doesn't generate billions of dollars every year because people love to watch coaching. The NBA has a monopoly on basketball viewership because it is the home of the best, and the best are granted certain privileges. But there's a breaking point where the tether between player freedom and team detriment is severed. Take Alex Sarr, the second overall pick in this year's draft. Many considered him the best prospect in the world, but Sarr had no intention of being selected with the number one pick. He declined his workout with the Atlanta Hawks, who possessed the first overall pick, making it evidently clear he wanted to go to the Wizards at number 2. His wish was granted when Atlanta selected Zachary Rizachet and the Wizards swooped in to pick up Sarr. If the best prospect in one of the weakest draft classes in recent memory can wield such authority, imagine the influence the worst one in the draft class has. That notion sounds paradoxical under normal circumstances. I mean, how could the worst player in the draft have any sway whatsoever? Most of these dudes never even step on an NBA court. But when the worst player in the draft class is LeBron James' son, he's the exception. With a selection reeking of narcissism, the LA Lakers drafted Bronny James 55th overall in the second round of the 2024 NBA draft. Bronny had no business even being considered for the NBA, as in his sole year at USC he averaged a triple single on horrible efficiency. The fact of the matter is, if he had any other last name he wouldn't make a roster in Europe. But LeBron wanted to play with his son, and that was that. This has nothing to do with Bronny James as a person, and more to do with the opportunity he was unfairly given. By no means is he a bad guy or anything, quite the contrary. He seems to be down to earth and extremely humble given the immense attention placed upon him. Truthfully, no one is at fault in this situation. The choice is straightforward. Either the Lakers draft Bronny, which would satisfy their star player and boost their finances since he's box office, or they pick another second round talent who is likely to turn out meaningless. It's not a difficult decision. It's tough to label Bronny James as entitled based on his attitude, as he doesn't carry himself that way. He's simply making the most of his situation as anyone would in his position. He's perceived as entitled simply because of the tremendous opportunity he was given, which would not be afforded to anyone else. And that's not the guy's fault. However, the same cannot be said for everyone. James Harden has soured every relationship he's created in his exits, and Harden has exited plenty of organizations. When there's prosperity, he is your greatest asset, but when things get difficult, he will be your reckoning. The Beard is no stranger to trade demands, having shrewdly dodged out of town on the Rockets, Nets, and the 76ers. James Harden is currently a Clipper by his doing, proclaiming Daryl Morey, the Philadelphia 76ers president of basketball operations, to be a liar. Harden stated his intent of departure from the city of brotherly love almost a year ago. And his shattered relationship with Morey is especially ironic, as we'll come to find out. After his trade to the Clippers, in roughly 32 months, Harden had created an all-time gallery of odd jerseys sported. Every stop he'd reached initially seemed beneficial to his career, leaving a Rockets team which was well past its glory for a Nets team in development as a powerhouse was the best move possible. He had zero intention of muddying his boots alongside Houston, who were heading into a restructuring phase. The man knew it was time to clock out, and he made sure the team knew as well. Let's recall the version of James Harden we were greeted with for the 2020-2021 season. He popped off in his first game of the season with 44 points and 17 assists, reminding the world he is still capable of being a world eater on any given night. He suited up for 8 games that season in a Houston uniform, and that Rockets jersey was definitely a snug XXL. I mean, he had commentators pointing out his probable love for pregame meals. This entire fiasco showcased a disgruntled superstar who did everything possible to lower his level of play, which forced his team to get rid of him. Before the season, he chose to party in Vegas, skipping training camp, which by now is as much a patented move as a step back. He partied days before the season opener, which landed him a $50,000 fine, but Harden cared little of any fine he'd receive, so the team was at his mercy. But the Rockets were still hesitant to part so easily with their franchise man, which is why he resorted to another signature move from his playbook, playing like straight garbage, and that's how he got fat suit James Harden. He won. He'd used his status as leverage to ensure the Rockets would meet his demands, and so began his tenure with the Brooklyn Nets. The moment he arrived in Bed-Stuy, the black and gray appeared destined to become the next NBA dynasty. Signing Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving had already transformed the club into a title contender, but adding the former MVP was the final step towards complete domination. Their collapse due to injuries was an unforeseen circumstance in which Harden did no wrong. Regarding his trade from the Nets to the 76ers, he did not formally make a trade request, possibly out of fear of the backlash he'd receive asking for a trade and back-to-back destinations. But it was very obvious he sought a reunion with Morey back in Philadelphia, which is hilarious in hindsight. Harden could become an unrestricted free agent in the upcoming season, so the Brooklyn Nets had to act, or else they potentially risked losing a monumental asset for nothing. This wasn't necessarily an abuse of power from Harden's end, but more so a negotiation tool at his disposal. His contractual favor meant he'd receive that reunion he so desperately wanted with Daryl Morey. But, as is standard with this dude, his ass was checked out the second the team faced hardship. He picked up his $35 million player option, which repeated the cycle with Philadelphia. Philly was now tied to a superstar who could walk away in a year, and he had made it clear their relationship was beyond reconciliation. So on October 31st, 2023, James Harden would be traded to the Los Angeles Clippers, which is where we are today. His status as an all-time legend has bestowed upon him the privilege to determine his destiny. Every single destination he reached post-Houston was one in which he could have won an NBA championship, but he never had the patience to achieve such a feat, which is required when you're hunting for banners. Now he's 35 years old, on his 5th team with no real shot at a title. Maybe his entitlement was to his detriment. Power can mean influence for some, a bargaining chip for others, and for the unfortunate, their demise. Thanks for watching.